Morant blows by Primo. Attack.
Jokic in the power. Here it goes. Got it. Denver has won.
But that's my stubborn side. Like, it's easy to go somewhere and go and win a championship with somebody else. It's easy. But this is the hard way to do it, and we did it.
We welcome you in to the Small Ball Podcast alongside the wonderful Trevor Mikulin and the determined Christian Dennis. I'm Scott Ayers.
You two just got a golden.
Yeah. That was awesome. For those who are listening on Spotify, Christian, do it one more time, but can you do that verbally, maybe for those who are just listening?
So I started off with a peace sign forward, but then turned it sideways to my cheek.
Thank you, Christian. And we also have the great producer, Andy. Producer Andy, say hello.
Hello.
That was a great job, and that is a great sign that we have a wonderful show in store. For those that have been listening here on Small Ball, we have been kind of going across the states from small to mid-market teams, and today's episode, it's a special episode for me. There's a song, Alabama, Arkansas, and then it sings a little, and then it goes, home, we go home. Home is where I belong with you. All right, we are going to the great city of Denver, the city that never sleeps.
I got my Denver Nugget jeans on.
He's got
Mile high.
and we are talking about the Nuggets, about a team with a lot of hope. And for those that don't know, my name is Scott, and I am a just giant Denver Nuggets fan. So we had this circled on the calendar. Next week, we will talk Kings and Suns, which is really exciting for these two guys, Trevor and Christian, because they are massive Kings fans. But tonight is about the Denver Nuggets and what we expect this upcoming season. But first, before talking about expectations and players in Denver, we have to talk about this last season, which for Denver was just riddled with injuries from the get-go. Jamal obviously being out with an ACL injury, Mpj just playing 9 games. And really, as a Denver Nugget fan and those watching the NBA, you kind of expected Denver to really struggle last year, which surprisingly, they still made the playoffs as a 6 seed.
Yeah, Mike Malone did his job. Nikola Jokic did his job. They came out and, like you said, didn't have any fans were just expecting, hey, it's going to be a wash season. But they did their thing. I mean, they had a good year. They finished sixth in the West, 48 wins, solid season. Nikola Jokic, your MVP. So that's what you can hang your hat on if you're a Nuggets fan. It was just unfortunate they were missing some, very, very important role players for their team.
Absolute masterclass of a season for Nikola Jokic to shut everyone up from the fact of his analytical stats, being the best player in the league, and then also kind of showing it through the eye test. Like you could say Joel Embiid played a pretty strong role in the MVP race, but I feel like it was Jokic's win from the get-go. So, and also, the fact that no one expected the Denver Nuggets to be good, the fact that he brought them to the 6th seed just shows it how amazing he is at basketball.
He led every single major stat category for the Denver Nuggets. Points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. And number 2 scorer for Denver last year, Aaron Gordon, at 15 points per game. I think if you would have said, yeah, Denver's going to be an 11 seed last year, I think a lot of people would have said, yeah, that makes sense. The fact that Jokic kind of carried this team all by himself, and in that series against Golden State, they win just one game. They won game 4. They led after the third quarter in 3 different games.
Dang.
Which is crazy because at the guard position, you're looking at Monte Morris and Will Barton, and more importantly, backup guards, it was ugly. And when Austin Rivers went out, it was Bryn Forbes, it was Facu. It was just a very depleted team. So playoffs really was the best you could hope for as a Nuggets fan.
They lost to the champs. And through the regular season, Nikola Jokic put the team on his back. Mike Malone did again, I'll use the phrase, masterclass job as a head coach. They were 6th in offensive rating and 15th in defensive rating. So they hovered in the middle and, top 6 in the league for offense for a team that was missing, we already mentioned some of their top role players. That's huge.
Yeah. Oh, it is. And let's talk about Mike Malone, which if you're a Kings fan, this is a sore subject. And if you're a Nuggets fan, you have to be so appreciative. And I think this is an important segment. And the reason for that is stability in any sport is huge. And Mike Malone has brought something to Denver that a lot of teams in Denver and a lot of teams in the NBA don't have, and that is stability.
Dude, it hurt for a little bit just with the Mike Malone firing in Sacramento. For those who don't know, he was the head coach of Sacramento for a short time, did really good. Fans liked him, and then unfortunately was fired, just politics in the front office. I'm over that. I love watching him coach. I love seeing when he's mic'd up and hearing the huddles and seeing stuff that he does in the locker room. He is such a good players coach, culture guy. I love that dude. Players buy into what he has to say.
Yeah, I mean, this just shows that the Denver Nuggets have a great organization. The fact that they're willing to stick out with coaches and let things play off when they know they have a good coach. The beginning of his coaching season with Denver wasn't the greatest, but they knew they had something and they just let him play out, because in reality, when it comes to the NBA, things don't always happen immediately. You need several seasons for things to kind of figure things out, get players into systems, and that's where you can see the true potential of a coach. And so the fact that Denver did it, awesome.
Yeah. Another thing too is his status of head coach. I feel like he's slept on heavily by national media, by even fans. I feel like there's not an awareness of him. You think about the coaches that are top of the league, Eric Spoelstra, Popovich, just guys like that level. He has to be in that conversation. Mike Malone needs to be there.
I couldn't agree more. And the fact that they had 48 wins last season with the roster that they had. And there's times where his rotational awareness, I don't really love seeing a guy like Facu in the game, but overall, he has done such an amazing job in Denver. First 2 seasons, he had losing records, and then since then, the lowest win total, 46 wins for Denver. So that just shows you the success with his predecessors, where George Karl was there for close to 10 years. He was great, but his time was coming to an end, and it came to an end after they were upset by Golden State and a young Steph Curry, and then the Brian Shaw years, which those are the ugly days for Nuggets fans, because it was just hopeless basketball. And Mike Malone has brought this new resurgence in Denver for basketball, and I think that is huge. And so I just want to take a minute to talk about Mike Malone. I don't know why Colin came to my mind. Mike Malone, because this is kind of a Mike Malone podcast. I feel like we all love Mike Malone.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Producer Andy, do you love Mike Malone?
Yeah, I love Mike Malone.
Thanks, producer Andy. This is behind the scenes, but producer Andy's checking sounds. So then whenever we call on him, he has to unmute himself, sit up, and then just deliver just lines of brilliance. It's perfect.
Incredible.
Yeah, for the people that don't know, they never tell me when they're going to ask a question. I'm just sitting here working, and they just start asking me questions. So if you ever hear me just repeat exactly what they say, it's because I have no idea what to say. I'm not prepared at all.
Folks, that is what we call showbiz. And Andy... Producer Andy, is almost always ready for the calling. And so thank you again, producer Andy. Let's move into this offseason for the Denver Nuggets. I feel like we talked everything we need to talk about. Regular season, injuries, as expected. Offseason, though, there were some key pieces and moves Denver made. And I will start with the biggest move of the offseason, signing Deandre Jordan.
Christian, take it away.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan is going to basically fill that that boogie role, just the backup center. I wouldn't expect anything from him in terms of just his role. But, he might give you a couple highlight dunks every once in a while.
I'm just excited for Scott as a Deandre Jordan hater to now have to watch him every single game this season. It's going to be great.
And that's kind of like, it's honestly been an issue in Denver is trying to find someone to just back up Jokic. Because you can't expect anywhere near the same productivity. But DeAndre Jordan just really does not seem like he's going to answer that call. But, we've been wrong before, right, guys? So maybe this is one of those cases where DeAndre Jordan will shine in Denver. But let's actually talk about the big trade, and that was Denver acquiring KCP in a trade that sent Monte Morris and Will Barton to Washington. Ish Smith and KCP come to Denver.
This is a great trade for both teams. And I think KCP is going to fit an awesome role with Denver because you can always use more shooting when you have Jokic on your team. And now that you have a perimeter defender on your team, that's going to be huge from the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be a nice little pairing too with Jamal, since Jamal can, do a little bit of everything on the court, gives him another option to pass to in case of emergency sort of thing. So now you have Mpj, KCP, Jokic, Jamal, and Aaron Gordon as your starting five. That's pretty solid starting five.
I would say it's a great starting five, and it's a huge upgrade from what we saw last season. Will Barton is one of those guys who he can get to the hoop, but he is not much of an outside threat.
He's a hooper.
He's a hooper. And so KCP, it really does kind of remind me of the role Gary Harris played for that Nuggets team that made it to the conference finals, where terrific perimeter defender. He automatically becomes the number one defender in Denver. And he becomes one of the best three-point shooters for the Nuggets. So for Jokic, the biggest thing was getting him help and having guys around him who can shoot the rock. KCP is one of those guys. Mpj and Jamal come back. And Aaron Gordon actually was really solid from that corner spot last year for Denver. So this trade makes so much sense because Washington gets Monte Morris. But more importantly, for Denver, they get a shooting guard that can really help solidify that starting five.
You know what else this trade did?
Say it.
It made Ish Smith the player that has played for the most teams in the NBA in history.
Which
I think this is his 14th. I don't know if that's right.
It's like 13th or 14th, which now this podcast goes from a Mike Malone podcast to an Ish Smith podcast. Because he'll get playing time. He'll probably be a solid backup.
He is
for Denver.
a solid backup point guard that is loved throughout the league. Every team that's had Ish Smith has loved him as their backup.
Why aren't they keeping him then?
Because he's replaceable. He's a guy that he fills a need, but he's not the only answer.
Got it. Okay.
And this is going to be kind of a little interesting to hear your feedback on this. But I can see Ish Smith being a similar as a Ty Lawson in a way, because he's a smaller guard and he's quick as snot. I mean, for a backup point guard.
Hold on. Quick as snot?
Yeah, you never heard that?
Never heard that in my life.
Yeah. You ever
do you
sneeze?
know that term?
It's pretty quick.
Oh,
it's quick
okay.
as snot.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah,
continue.
for sure.
Yeah, okay. That was it. I just think he could be like a Ty Lawson backup type point guard.
Oh, Andy, you have something? Oh, you picked up your mic. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you visualize that? How fast is snot? For
pretty fast.
for the listeners at home,
No one expects it.
It's true. No one does expect it, and I think off the topic of snot and more on the topic of Ish Smith, any kind of comparison to Ty Lawson gets me so jazzed. I was a huge Ty Lawson fan, fathead in my bedroom.
Yeah.
This was before Dewey Ty Lawson, where he just he got obsessed with the drink and stopped playing basketball. He was one of my favorite Nuggets ever. I watched him at UNC, loved him. Nuggets got him, and I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. But he's not a Nugget anymore, so it doesn't matter. So Ish Smith could be the Ty Lawson replacement, which is exactly what we want to hear. I would say the other big free agency moves actually is Bruce Brown, which now you get another guy who kind of can do everything. He can guard just about anyone, and he shot pretty well from beyond the arc. He's going to be a great 6th, 7th man for the Denver Nuggets.
Oh, he's the Energizer Bunny. He's going to come off your bench, and he's just going to play hard, and he's going to make good plays. And that's just something you always need on an NBA team. Guy that can get the crowd going. You know, he's diving on the floor. He's getting those rebounds. He's locking people up, and he's, shooting the corner three. It's a great pickup.
Yeah, he shot 40% from deep last year. Any team would take that.
Any team.
Great addition.
Especially coming off your bench, that you need someone who can actually, because that's a huge issue, and that was an issue for Denver last year, is they just had no perimeter scoring. Jokic even struggled from beyond the arc. It was one of his worst years from shooting from three. So just getting as many guys who can actually make those shots is huge. Bruce Brown adds to that. One of their losses, J. Michael Green, he goes to OKC, but there weren't really any.
No, then he went to the Warriors.
And then he went to the Warriors. That's right. So they traded into OKC, and he got bought out. Now he's a Warrior. But a couple of these free agency signings from years in the past were flops. Facu, although he had some highlights, he was just too small. He really couldn't defend. Bryn Forbes. It was like if you put Trevor out there. I think Trevor would hit more shots. I'm not kidding. Bryn Forbes was brought in to be a shooter, and do you know what he did?
Didn't shoot.
He didn't shoot. He shot. He just didn't make shots. And then Austin Rivers, who I actually liked, he has the iconic clip of that series against Portland where Dame finally misses a shot, and he praises the heavens, and that's how every Denver Nugget fan, that game to this day is like the angriest I've ever been. I've never been that mad at an NBA player in my life until Dame Lillard just made every shot.
Dang.
Yeah, no, I ripped off my shirt at one point, just screaming.
Were you more mad at Dame or Rodney Hood?
Oh, actually, Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood from a couple years earlier. He's the Nugget killer. I would love for Nuggets fans to just leave any kind of comments. Rodney Hood's performance against us will go down as like one of the most frustrating performances I've ever had to watch. He just destroyed us in every game, and he shouldn't. It's Rodney freaking Hood.
It's like, why is this guy this good?
No, yeah, he shouldn't be.
He was nuts.
Yeah, he's a stiff, but that game, that series,
he was loose.
Yeah, he was. He was loose. But then, overall though, this Nuggets offseason is exactly what they needed to do. Minus Deandre Jordan, I thought it was a really, really good offseason for the Denver Nuggets. So, with that said, we move on to the regular season, and I know we have a lot of different players we want to talk about. We have a lot of different segments, and then obviously giving our expectations about what we think Denver can do this season. But we actually have a guest. So we're going to be talking about Jamal Murray, which I know there's a lot of opinions in this room about Jamal, which should be a really fun conversation. But before that, I called on one of my greatest reinforcements.
What?
An ally, you may say. Yes, I paged him. I said, Rob Ducey.
Bring it, Rob.
Rob Ducey from Denver, Colorado. And Rob, let me tell you, can I give a quick description of Rob Ducey? This is a guy who's loved by everyone, okay? But not only that, he knows his stuff. He's a huge Denver Nugget fan. One of those guys after games where we'll tweet at each other, slide in each other's DMs and be like, man, that was awesome. Or, man, that really sucked. He is a trusted source. He knows ball, and he knows Jamal Murray. So without further ado, Andy, let's roll the clip of that Rob Ducey provided for us. We're gonna show that clip, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about Jamal. We can talk about Rob, everything like that.
What's up, guys? My name is Rob Ducey. I'm joining the Small Ball Pod today to talk a little bit about Jamal Murray, Nuggets. And before I jump in, shout out Christian, Trevor, Scott, producer Andy. Thanks for having me on, guys. Really great podcast. If you aren't already subscribed on Spotify and YouTube, please make sure you do. These guys are so great. They're doing a tour of the U.S. teams, looking at all the small mid-market teams. It is great. I've listened to like 10 of their podcasts this week because it's so much fun to listen to. They're so awesome. Please check it out. Trying to keep this short, so I'm going to jump right in. I've put together a timeline for you guys on why I think Jamal Murray is so great at basketball. So it starts back in January of 2019. Jackie McMullen writes a player profile on Jamal Murray. It's where that famous push up in the snow story comes from. There's a lot of other really great stuff in that article. If you haven't checked it out, definitely recommend it. Jamal in the 2019-2020 season is really when he takes a leap, and specifically inside of the bubble against the Jazz, he has the two 50-point games, a 42-point game, a 36-point game. Him and Donovan Mitchell are really just trading shots, going at it kind of the whole game. It was so much fun to watch. He has a 360-degree layup against Rudy Gobert. Here it is. So good. This clip is great. I'm sure you guys have seen it on Twitter, but it's so much fun to watch. He's able to do that against a player that's won Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. So good. That's in August and September of 2020. Kind of we make it through that series, come back from 3-1, play the Clippers. That's September 3rd through September 15th of 2020. Jamal is still just doing crazy things. He's able to create just unreal separation. He's getting guarded by Kawhi Leonard and Paul George that whole series. Both of those guys are great perimeter defenders. This clip, he's able to create some separation against Kawhi. It's wonderful to watch. This is my favorite clip of Jamal of all time. For the listeners out there, Kawhi has his hand in Jamal's face, hand over the ball pretty much the whole time. Jamal drives to the hoop, kind of takes a fadeaway, hand is still in his face the whole time, and he's able to get the bucket. And that's something that the Nuggets just desperately needed last year with Jamal out with the ACL injury. We really needed a guy that could go score, and we just didn't have it. So it was wonderful to see Jamal just do that back when he was healthy. So we keep moving forward on the timeline. It's September at the end of that Clippers series. The Nuggets lose to the Lakers 4-1 in the next series. I think the NBA season ends in November of 2020. The next season starts at the end of December 2020. Before that season, ESPN puts out a list. They rank Jamal at the 21st best player in the NBA. It was great to see it. Love Jamal. That's the only list I could actually find him rated on. In February of 2021, the Ringer exclude Jamal from kind of their top 25 players ratings through the first 55 games of the year. Jamal is still doing crazy stuff with his layups. Here's a clip of him kind of driving at the basket, bumping off LeBron, getting it to fall. Just great to see. He has some of the craziest layup highlights I've ever seen. February 2021, still same time, he puts up 50 against the Cavs. No layups. Love to compare this to the Donovan Booker dropping 70 with 26 layups. I don't know. Listeners at home can decide what's harder, but if you ask me, 50 without a layup, just wonderful. In March of 2021, the Nuggets trade for Aaron Gordon. I think Aaron Gordon got like 9 games with Mpj and Jamal Murray. I think Jamal played even less with Aaron Gordon, maybe 5. And we looked really great. Jamal and Mpj in March with Aaron Gordon dropped 38 in the first quarter against Philly. Just great. I know Philly, great battles with Jokic and Embiid, but just seeing Jamal get out there, get some buckets, hit down some threes, so wonderful. And of course, Jamal tears his ACL in April of 2021, which is just horrible. He's had 18 months to recover. People had talked about him coming back for the playoffs last year. Pretty happy he decided to sit out, if I'm being honest. Get healthy, get right. Really hopeful that he comes back strong and healthy for the next season. I think Jamal, if you want to go look at his highlights, he has some crazy layups. He's had the one where he switches hands and goes under against LeBron. It is wild. He has one of the best highlight packages of any player that's never made an all-star game. Shout out to whoever tweeted that. I stole that from you. It is great. Jamal's great. That season before he got hurt, he was averaging 40% from 3. I mean, just insane. Like, he's one of those players that the Nuggets just need on the team to go out there and get a basket when we're just struggling. So I'm really hoping he comes back healthy. And yeah, check him out. Great. Scouts are putting him on Donovan Mitchell's level if he comes back healthy. I think Jamal is just a really great player. He's been with Jokic his whole career. They've had Mike Malone the whole time. I think they're going to really be able to do great stuff this year. Thanks.
All right. There is so much we need to talk about Jamal. But first, let's give a thanks to Rob Ducey.
Rob, that was awesome.
Yeah, shout out to Rob.
Rob is officially our Nuggets insider.
He is the Nuggets insider. There's a lot we'll talk about that. The fact that he had the different videos, he has the timeline. But I have to pull up his Twitter really quick because here on Small Ball, we give love to those who give love to us.
Yes.
So Rob on Twitter, he is Rob Dimmadome. Give him a follow.
How do you spell Demodome?
Yeah, it's Rob and then Dimmadome. Dimmadome. Rob Dimmadome.
There we go.
Like from Fairly Odd Parents.
From Fairly Odd Parents. He tweets about Denver Nuggets, everything. His most recent tweet, it is, "I'm so in love with Dua Lipa."
Wow, he's a man of great taste.
I'm following.
Yeah. So he is a trusted follower. Rob, seriously, if you're watching or listening, thank you so much. Let's talk about Jamal Murray because there's a lot there. We've seen the clips. Let's open up this can of worms. What are our thoughts on Jamal Murray? Trevor,
I think we should just go around real quick and say just a quick, like, do you like Jamal, yes or no? And then we'll start from there. Okay, so I like Jamal.
I like Jamal.
I think Jamal's okay.
No, say it.
Say it.
I think Jamal's okay.
No, say it.
I do. I think he people overrate him though. I don't think he's as great as people
Say you don't like him.
It's not that I don't like him. I wanted the Kings to draft him.
Hey.
I liked his interviews. I liked him in college.
No. Do it for the bit.
Can you do it for the bit?
Yeah, just
What do you want me to say?
I don't like Jamal.
I don't like Jamal.
Okay,
Thank you.
boom.
Oh, I love Jamal.
Oh, thank you, Andy.
Okay, so you have a black sheep in the room.
Ooh, okay. Trev, let's start with you. What about Jamal? Do you not like? Do you not think he fits? Just to get that conversation going.
Why is he overrated?
Well, here's the thing: is before I even give what I have to say, because my whole argument is not to bash Jamal. I think he's a fine NBA player. Like I said, I intentionally used the language earlier when we spoke on this past season.
I ignored it.
They were missing some great role players, and you guys seem to think he's more than that. Please tell me what you guys think, and based on what you guys believe, I can then tell you what I think. Because I don't think I like Jamal Murray. I think he's a good NBA player. I don't think he's like a star. He's not an all-star for a reason. Please tell me what you guys think.
So I think Jamal Murray is the perfect number 2 option.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Okay. So here's why. Here's some evidence to back it up. Let's first talk about the bubble. Rob does a great job in the video too, talking about a couple 50-point games against Utah and the impact he played, the separation he makes. That's really where the catalyst started for Jamal Murray. Because he did have some highs and lows before that. You look at the season after, and it was his first season that we've talked about, Trev, averaged over 20 points per game, and that's right where you need Jamal to be. He doesn't need to be a 25 points per game scorer. He doesn't need to be a 30 points per game scorer. 20 points per game is good enough for Denver to be a championship team with other pieces in place. And I know you give me eyebrows, but let's look at Klay Thompson last year, 20 points per game. Chris Middleton the year before, 20 points per game. So scoring-wise and defensively, is he on the same level? Probably not. But scoring-wise, that is enough to be a number 2 option for an NBA championship team.
Okay. I also just want listeners to know, Scott, I love you. And you know that. Mm-hmm. And so this conversation, I just want to clarify that. Now, I don't think Jamal Murray is a top 15 number 2 option in the NBA.
Wow.
All right, so name the 15.
Okay, Thank you. Chris Middleton, Anthony Davis, Paul George, Chris Paul, CJ McCollum,
Chris Paul averaged 17 points per game, by the way. Go ahead.
Chris Paul's so much better than Jamal Murray. Okay, we'll keep going. I'll continue. Zach LaVine, Drew Holiday.
Who's
and
the
he's
number
even
one?
a third option.
Wait, who's the number one in Chicago? DeMar?
DeMar DeRozan.
Okay.
Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, James Harden, DeJounte Murray, Darius Garland, Klay Thompson, Anthony Edwards, De'Aaron Fox, maybe.
I don't agree with the last two.
Okay, fine.
But
Well, I just want to throw out.
So how can a perfect number 2 be the 13th or 14th best number 2 in the NBA?
Because he fits the system perfectly.
And also, you got to look at the number one. The number
You've
one
gotta
is a
look at the number
two-time
one.
MVP champion.
Yeah.
Okay, so
It's
we're talking
different.
Jamal though. We're not talking about we're not talking about Nikola Jokic. We're talking about Jamal Murray as a player.
And he's the perfect fit in Denver.
Perfect fit in Denver. Okay.
Yeah. As the number 2.
I think Jamal Murray's fine. I don't think he's like some great star player. That's what I'm trying to say. Here's a comparison. You want to hear my spicy comparison?
Yeah. Trevor was talking about this before.
Here's a guy. I have a guy who had a great playoff series, great playoff run. And come to find out, he actually had a season just like Jamal. One season above 20 points per game. Jamal Murray's highest points per game was a season where he averaged 21 points per game. This player averaged 20 points per game. This player has a 19 point per game season and an 18 point per game season. Jamal Murray has a 21, as I mentioned, and 2 18 point per game series seasons. It's Terry Rozier.
Oh my God.
Scary Terry and Jamal Murray, I think, are more similar.
I do have a question. Have you watched Jamal and Jokic play enough to make this take? Because Jamal and Jokic, what makes them so great is their pick and roll is unstoppable. And that's where a key piece of this is not being talked about, is like, we can talk about, Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier very much is, I'm going to do it myself. Jamal and Jokic have perfect team chemistry that you don't see really with anyone else.
I agree completely. My argument isn't against the connection that him and Nikola Jokic have. My argument isn't against his fit in Denver. So we could push that to the side. I'm talking about Jamal Murray as a player. I don't think he's a star. I think he's a good fit. It's the same thing in the quarterback discussion.
Question though. Terry Rozier, was he the number one option when he averaged that 21 points per game?
No, that was in 2018.
Well, my question is, if you had a team, let's take the Hornets for example, and your backcourt's LaMelo Ball and Terry Rozier. Will that be at a team that's LaMelo Ball and Jamal Murray? Those two names together, you'd be like, whoa, the Hornets? Their backcourt is nuts. You don't say that about Terry Rozier. He's just a guy who's on a bad team who just shoots the ball because there's no one else.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think we should be talking about Jamal Murray like, oh my gosh, he's nuts. He had one season that he averaged 21 points per game.
He almost averaged 50, 40, and 90.
I don't think he's.
I feel like you got to look at the playoffs too. I mean, he had a good playoff run. Like
it wasn't good. It was incredible.
Incredible series against the Jazz.
It was incredible series, and he did that against two of the best defenders in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Those clips we saw against Rudy Gobert, against LeBron James, against Kawhi Leonard, and he does that. He does that often, and so.
I could find some really cool clips of Terry Rozier.
You could, but here's something that Jamal Murray does that they have missed greatly. For Denver when he was playing, no one else in Denver was even close to the drives to the basket for 10 drives to the basket per game. That was something Denver greatly missed. It's just, I don't really think you understand the point that Jamal, in Denver, is perfect. So he might not be the best point guard, but he is an incredible player. Well, also he's a great NBA player.
He's a really, really good NBA player.
He's a great NBA player.
What's great? Who else is great?
Nikola Jokic is amazing.
Okay.
Steph Curry.
Steph
Curry's great.
I'm just trying to think what level of player is he on? Because I named 13 players that I said I think are better, and
Andy,
agreed.
You got something?
I'm just trying to figure out what level are you putting him on? Because I think he's really good too, but what level is he on? You mentioned the strongest thing you had, 50, 40, 90. He never averaged 50, 40, 90.
I said he was close to 50, 40, 90. He was 87% from the free throw line. It was like 47% from the field and like 39, 40%.
Yeah,
so which
that
is
was
close.
that was a really great shooting clip that season.
Yeah,
that was the 21
which was his
point.
most recent one. And we expect players who are young to improve on the season that they've had. That's what we do for every NBA player, which I don't get. For Jamal, though, Trevor, you expect him to get worse. And that's what I don't get. Every other player, you say, oh, they are going to greatly improve, or they are Anthony Edwards is expected to do this. But for Jamal, all of a sudden, you go, yeah, he's done this one thing. It's expected to decline, is your kind of rhetoric. And that doesn't make sense.
I never said he's expected to decline.
But that's how you're talking.
No, my argument this whole time has been, I don't think he's as great as other people. And I don't think, from what I've seen, he's going to get there. He's coming off of an ACL injury, too.
And that's a different topic. We're talking about.
Oh, you're talking about decline and incline.
But I still think he's going to improve.
Okay.
I think he's going to improve.
Okay. And if he does, great. But I'm talking about right now where he stands, because you've said.
Where do you see his fit in Denver, though?
I think he's a great fit in Denver. I've said that already on the show. But what I'm saying is, you said he's a perfect number 2, which you meant that as far as fit in Denver. Okay, I misheard you on that.
He is.
As far as a number 2 option, though, like I've already named guys that I think are better than him.
But that's for anyone. Like Klay Thompson, if he goes to a bad team and he's still number 2, I'm like, oh gosh.
Well, recent Klay, but a couple years ago, Klay, like before the injuries.
But still, like that's an argument for just about any player given their circumstance.
I feel like when talking about players right now, it should be focused on recency. It shouldn't be what did they do, years ago. Like you mentioned, like how Chris Paul is better than Jamal, which I would agree. But like, in comparison to like this year and what Chris Paul is going to be next year, he's on his decline, and I would choose Jamal over CP3
for this season. Like if you had a team for this season,
yeah, of course,
coming off of an ACL injury,
yeah, he's 25, 26 years old.
This isn't Derrick Rose ACL era.
I would hate for that to be the case.
The science that has improved tremendously to where guys are coming off of injuries and they're still picking up where they last were. It's not like he's gonna be absolutely terrible, or like there's not going to be that big of a drop that like Derrick Rose experienced.
Jamal Murray is a good NBA player. I've named people that I think are better than him, and I stand on that. I don't think he's a star. I don't think he's that. Maybe he is that, but he's not that right now, and I know that I can stand on that, and I strongly believe that. As far as what he's going to be, that's not what this conversation's about, incline or decline.
No, I was like kind of listening to both sides of it. I think you guys are kind of both right on Trevor's side. I don't think Jamal Murray is at the all-star level, but I do think he can be. And I think that he's going to show a lot of people like, hey, I can be a really great scoring option. And like, Scott, I hate to say this, but I would love to see Jamal on a different team. Like, because I would want to see what type of player he really is when he's not playing side by side against Jokic, right? Because that takes a lot of the offensive possessions away from him. And we've seen him cook, and he can cook. And so I think it'd be really fun to be able to watch him play with other teams and things like that. But I mean, as for right now, he's good.
I think you bring up a great point too. Most point guards are ball dominant. Jamal Murray isn't ball dominant in Denver because the offense runs through Jokic. And so a lot of those stats and touches are so different in Denver versus, if you played somewhere else, that would be a way more defining factor for who Jamal Murray is as a player because like Donovan Mitchell in Utah. And I think Rob compared him and put him on the same level as Mitchell. I don't know, but Mitchell has the ball in his hands every possession. That's not the same for Jamal in Denver.
See, when I hear that, my mind goes to not like, okay, Jokic is holding him back. I feel like Jokic is a player that makes players around him better. So if anything, Jokic is elevating the game of Jamal Murray.
Possibly, but he would probably elevate the game of Steph Curry. Like, he would do that with everyone.
Exactly.
I mean, he elevated the game for Monte Morris.
Yeah, he did.
And his trade value went up. I mean, I see Jamal Murray with his skill level. I see him similar to like CJ, Zach LaVine, who's another one I was just thinking of. Can't remember. But those players are really good players that can kind of do a little bit of everything. They can score all over the place.
Yeah.
Those are Donovan Mitchell. I would even throw Donovan Mitchell in that kind of grouping because that's just the type of player I see them as. They're guys that can score at every level, and they need a team around them to elevate them. And, with playing against with Jokic, and then you have MPJ, and you have Aaron Gordon, now KCP, guys that kind of fit each other's role and can fit perfectly. That's where we're going to see the elevation of Jamal Murray. So that's why I think this year he's going to have a bigger year, even though he's coming off an ACL. But the Nuggets still needed him. They needed his scoring. They needed
desperately
that chemistry, that bread and butter. Like Jokic and Jamal, you need a bucket. Let's go pick and roll. We have that now, and that's what makes the Nuggets kind of a scary team to me because we don't know what they're going to be like this year. We just know they're going to be good, and if they stay healthy, they can make noise in playoffs and disrupt some things.
And what's funny too is Trev and I think have been arguing, but we also have just been talking about different things. Because my perception will always be I love Jamal Murray, but my perception is I've always thought him as just the perfect number 2, whereas your argument was different. You think he's at a certain level in the NBA, and I probably think he's different. I'm a biased Nuggets fan. Like that's how the conversation goes. But you bring up a great point of where Denver is and the team who they are. And this is a really good team. This is a really, really good NBA team. One last thing I want to talk about players is Mpj and his contract with Denver. I don't think this is as hot button of a topic conversation because I think we all are probably in agreement that maybe Mpj got paid a little too much. But as a Denver fan, I do understand it. Because it's really hard to get free agents in Denver. That's why they're a mid-market to small-market team. The biggest free agent Denver has had, I've talked about, is Paul Millsap. And so re-signing MPJ was saying, hey, we trust you. We trust in this window that we have. We trust you're going to develop and that you're going to help us bring a championship.
I think it was. I know that it looks like a lot of money. But if I'm Denver, I'm doing that deal. And
I agree.
I know people are like against it, Twitter kind of, as it's gone on. Yeah, he gets memed totally. But the guy shot 44% from deep in his last full season with the team, and he averaged 19 points per game. I believe his rookie year, he shot 42% or something like that from deep. He's shown enough that he deserves, like, you can't not re-sign him. What are you gonna do? Let the guy walk?
No chance.
You have to re-sign him, and that's the amount that he believes he's valued. He's 6'11", 6'10", and I mean the flashes that he shows are crazy. So you can't let that guy walk. You have to give him the money, and you have to roll the dice. That's a risk that Denver was willing to take, and you have to take. Any team would have done that.
Any team.
I think we're only talking about it as a bad contract is because he got hurt. I mean, he's had injury history, and like you said, that's just the risk you have to take. He's a guy that I think fits well with Jamal and Jokic, and if those are the two cornerstones of your offense, you need to make guys around them fit their needs. And to get a floor spacer to let Jamal and Jokic have more room to cook, that's just what you have to do. I don't see how you can replace that caliber of scoring offense in free agency with Denver not being able to be a big enough market to attract these players.
Yeah. No, it makes total sense. And Denver's vision is kind of a big 3, right? Where you look at Boston from those years ago of KG and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, a very different type of big 3, but still 3 guys that you can count to get buckets, and that's what those 3 are. I do love Aaron Gordon in Denver, and finally Aaron Gordon gets to play more of a comfortable role. He was forced to really be the number 2, number 3 scoring option in Denver, and It's not really who he is. He can do it, but that's not really who he is.
He's one of the best defenders in the NBA.
He's awesome.
He's so fun. On both ends, he brings electricity to the offense, obviously, because he can fly out of the gym. But his defense is what stands out. His lateral quickness. He can guard people on the wing, and then even his inside defense, he's strong. He can get up and protect the rim. He's a player that I wish was on my team.
Definitely. And I think with Aaron Gordon and then the addition of KCP, which makes it another great add, is like now you have two guys in your starting five that are just extremely solid defenders.
Oh, yeah.
And like we don't expect or need them to be offensive juggernauts. We just need them to play their role. And with what Mike Malone has created, that culture in Denver, everyone buys in, everyone knows their role. And that's what's going to elevate Denver Nuggets this year.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Jamal is actually just bringing him up just makes me laugh.
Man.
It's like PTSD. I'm like seeing choppers from Vietnam. I'm like, oh no. I don't even want to say his name. Is actually a really solid defender. So him being the number 3 defender is great. And then MPJ is and Jokic has his flashes actually on defense. He's just
Big body.
Yeah, big body. He's just susceptible in the pick and roll game, I would say, for Jokic. But still, he's not terrible. He's improved greatly from the past. Let's talk about what we expect Denver to do this season. In a highly contested Western Conference, assuming this team stays healthy because injuries just kicked their you-know-whats last year, what are the expectations for the Denver Nuggets?
It's hard to say because the West is just all over the place. I feel like every time we do a podcast now of this traveling the U.S., we're all like, yeah, they're a top 5 team. like every team we do, top 5. A little concern that I have for the Nuggets is just a little bit of their bench. They have Bruce Brown coming off the bench, Ish Smith, and then you have some younger guys like Bones and Christian Brown, coming off the bench, and of course Deandre Jordan. So I'm a little worried about their bench production, but I still think that they're going to be really good. Man,
I love Bones, by the way. Go ahead.
Who doesn't? How can you meet someone named Bones and then not love him?
Not love him.
Yeah. But yeah, they're a top 5 team. They're with that being said, if they were the 6th seed last year and you bring back Mpj and Jamal, and then you also add KCP and Bruce Brown to your team, I think that's going to elevate your team a lot. And I'm honestly, I'm going to lock them in at the 3.
Whoa! Top 3 team in the Western Conference.
Yep, this is regular season we're talking about. So.
Yeah. Dang, Christian, that was spicy, bro.
Oh gosh.
No, I like the Nuggets. As I actually think that if they're healthy, they have one of the best starting 5s in the NBA for sure. You just look at that. You already named it off. Also they're going to be kind of flashback to Lob City. DeAndre catching lobs.
Bruce Brown.
Aaron Gordon. Come on. Jokic is going to have a party, bro.
Yeah, he is.
New age.
Imagine that. Jordan, Gordon, and Jokic.
Dude.
3, 4, 5.
That was nice.
Honestly, Jamal Murray, I was watching some highlights, and Jokic was throwing some oops to Jamal, too. So anyone could jump.
Yeah. He can yam. I got him around the 6th seed. I think that they're going to be good. Mike Malone's a solid coach, and if they're healthy, they're going to be pretty solid.
I've been thinking about this for a while, guys.
Okay. Buckle up, people.
Buckle up. Listen, you could say this is because I'm a Nuggets fan.
Okay.
You could say this is because the city of Denver needs this. I've got the Denver Nuggets as the number 1 seed in the Western Conference.
Oh, my God.
And not only that, here's my second hot take. They're going to meet the Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference Finals.
Wow. Wow. So you have the Eastern Conference Finals set. You said that on a show, and now you have the Western Conference Finals.
And my West set.
Wow.
So close your eyes, or if you're on Spotify, you can keep looking at the wall.
That was good.
In the East, in the East, Bucks and Cavs.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the West, we've got Warriors and the Nuggets.
Wow.
Yes.
Jamal Murray.
Yes, Jamal proves Trevor wrong finally.
I can't wait to see Jamal and the Nugs go to the finals against Donovan and the Cavs.
And then Donovan and Jamal clash in the playoffs again.
The redo of the bubble.
That's my dream, but actually my real dream. I've been thinking about this is like a sick fantasy, but it's seriously sick. Is Nuggets finally, and Nuggets fans, you're gonna love this. Nuggets finally get revenge against Golden State. These years of pain from Steph Curry. We get it done in the Western Conference Finals. We take on the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Finals.
Wow. So we got Western and Eastern Conference Finals and the finals set from Scott.
I've made my prediction.
Before preseason even begins, before training camp begins.
I have a weird
Scott
feeling
is locking it in.
I have a weird feeling that we are going to be pulling up this footage later, and it's going to be right.
Yeah, we'll put like a magic ball or something. And
I shower every morning, and I'm like, please be good. Please be good. Please be good.
So Scott prays every morning that the Nuggets will be good. And you know what? Maybe your prayers will be answered.
Maybe they will be.
Before we wrap up this show, can I also just shake your hand, Scott?
Oh, yeah. That was great.
Our hands are shaking for listeners.
Yeah, no. There's no ill will.
Do you want to shake my hand?
Nah, dude, I'm good.
Yeah.
All right.
He's still just furious about the Barnes-Durant debate you guys had.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's good podcast material. I've always learned that we need to get a little feisty, get a little angry, because then afterwards, the kissing in the showers is when things are done well.
I'm just happy that this episode, it's not me and Trevor hating each other.
It's true.
It's Trevor and Scott hating each other.
That's our first time going head to head, Trev.
It was fun.
And I'm the problem is when I debate, this doesn't even need to be for a podcast.
No. We're going to keep it in.
Yeah, keep it going. I'm horrible at debating since the age of 7. My whole body tenses up. I feel this heat, and I'm like, and so I never actually say anything I want to say.
This is one of those things where you're like, 30 minutes later, you're like, man, I should have said that. And you're just constantly thinking
I'm
of the
going to be
argument.
sulking in the shower. Andy, you have something?
Yeah, for I would say a solid 5 minutes. I'm so sorry to the listeners because they were just both saying, Scott was like, Jamal's great. And then Trevor's like, well, I don't think he's great, but he's good. And then Scott was like, no, I think he's great. And then Trevor's like, well, he's not great, he's good. It was just back and forth.
That's good stuff, though.
It was like a game of tennis. It was really well done.
Yeah. We went to war.
It was like, yeah. I know there's 40 love.
Text us or hit us up on IG, listeners, who you agree with.
Yeah, who you agree with.
Please tell us your takes.
Where do you stand on Jamal Murray?
I mean, to my knowledge, there's only two sides. There's Jamal's great and Jamal's not great.
That's not what I'm saying. Run it back. That's not my take. Shut your mouth.
I think I remember you saying on this podcast, I don't like Jamal Murray.
We got him. Play it back, Andy. Play it back.
Caught in 4K, baby.
I can't believe you.
Oh, that is rich. And with that, we end probably my favorite podcast of the year because it was about the Denver Nuggets. Guys, any final remarks about the Nugs?
No.
Nope, I'm good. That was a good episode.
That was good. I'm the only person, I want the records to be shown, I'm the only person who's made my predictions on the West and the East and who's making it to the finals. So
Tune in next week for his final championship prediction.
I'll be picking the finals. I'll be thinking about the shower. So for our great producer, Andy, who's just wonderful, the wonderful, wonderful Trevor Mickulin, and the always very handsome
and wonderful.
I know. I said you're both wonderful. And the handsome and wonderful Christian Dennis. I am the wonderful Scott Ayers. We say so long for now, and we'll see you next week.
Small Ball Podcast. Let's ride.
great job. You made it to the end of the video. We thank you so much for watching us here on the Small Ball Podcast. We're the only channel covering small to mid-market teams. So please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Find us on Instagram at Small Ball Podcast. Thanks so much, guys.